Welcome to the Roto Joe's Fantasy Football Podcast. Tonight, a little bit of a mock draft, some news, a little bit of love-hate. Starting off, we have a new website. Well, we had an old website, but we have a new, better website, rotojoes.com. I'll link it on the YouTube video. Go check that out. It looks nice. A lot of time got spent on that, so nice to have that done. So, Caden, going into June, camp's coming up soon. Deshaun Watson faces 2 new lawsuits. Do you think he plays this year?
Absolutely not. I mean, I've said it before. I'll say it again. If they hit Ridley with a year for gambling and betting on his own team even, I don't think there's a shot in hell Deshaun Watson plays this year, which puts the Browns in a situation where, okay, you spent 5 picks on this guy. You gave him a shit ass load of guaranteed money. What the fuck do? Do you roll with Brissett? Do you beg Baker Mayfield to come back? And I said this the other day, but man, Baker Mayfield coming in having a hell of a year is the most Cleveland Browns thing that could happen. You know what I'm saying? He comes in, balls out, and then they're like, oh shit, maybe we shouldn't have done that.
I don't think he plays this year. I said at one point he would do maybe like a 6 to 10 game suspension. I just don't see any way, shape, or form he gets on the football field this year. Roger Goodell works off the court of public opinion, and right now public opinion is way against Deshaun.
Now, I mean, I even saw a stat that said in 17 months, he went to 66 massage therapists. Granted, 24 of them filed lawsuits, but I wonder how many more. I don't know. So the facts of the matter is, I read up on this today. He was cleared of criminal charges in 10 of them already. That leaves 14 potentially that we just don't know about. Don't know if he's going to get hit with charges. Don't know if he's not. But, man, it's a bad look for the NFL. And you're right. They do go off a court of public opinion. And I think it's a year minimum. But, God, what happens if they try to make an example out of the guy?
Yeah, he might see that Trevor Bauer 2-year suspension. In that case,
yeah, it's all bad. But yeah, I'm if you're a Cleveland holy shit, if you're a Cleveland Browns fan, I'm sorry. It's just not your year.
So I have something funny to kind of piggyback off this. If Jacoby Brissett plays, I think that Nick Chubb's value goes up. I think that, like, obviously Cooper, most of the pass game options go down. I think David Njoku's in line for a top 5 tight end season, though. Brissett targeted Mike Gesicki 7.7 times last year in his 6 starts. That's ridiculous. And Njoku is on par, if not better, than Gesicki, with other weapons around him.
Physically, he's superior to Gesicki. Yep. I mean, you just look at that guy. He's got off-the-chart athletic ability. And, I mean, guys like David Bell are going to take a hit. Cooper's going to take a hit. Yeah, I could see that. I could see that happening. I could see Njoku having a hell of a year, and I could also see Kareem Hunt having I don't want to do a flaming hot take, but probably a top 15 running back season.
Yeah, if they're down a lot. Yeah, I like Chubb going up too. Chubb will get more work. They'll just run it right through the running backs like they have been. Next little piece of kind of news. This isn't really news. You had tweeted this, though, and I wanted to talk about it because it was really smart. The tight end dead zone. You had said that it's gone, and I wanted to dig in on that a little bit. I just did my rankings, and David Njoku, Mike Gesicki, Dawson Knox, Evan Ingram, Noah Fant, Irv Smith Jr., Robert Tonyan, all guys that rank outside of tight end 12. And honestly, I'm not mad about any of them on a roster. So I think that was really insightful because for years you wanted to be up. If you didn't get 1, 2, 3, you're racing to get someone in the middle of that like 8, 9, 10 pack. And I just don't think that's the case anymore. I don't think you need to do that. There are a ton of quality options in between 12 and 24 that are probably going to score, maybe half a point less per game than those guys in that like 5 to 12 range that are getting drafted really high in drafts relative to the other players around them. So I really like that tweet. That was a good little piece of information.
Yeah, I started looking over rankings the other night, and I just started looking through names, thinking about situations, and I'm like, dude, you remember the times when you either had Gronk or Ertz or Kelsey, or you were fucked. And I think Zach Ertz is a quality option. Tanyan, that's a guy, he's kind of on my sleeper radar because you think Devontae Adams is gone. Tanyan's going to get that work. For me, I'd be if I'm not in a position to get Mark Andrews at a value, I'm really honestly, I'd rather take a flyer on a Rob Tanyan. Or, like you said, Noah Fant's going to get a bunch of work. There's a lot of quality options that we haven't seen in years. I remember times, Jesus Christ, there was times that I'd be waiver wire busting for fucking just someone to play because whoever I had was pissing me off. You know what I mean? I'm like, maybe they catch a touchdown. If I get 6 points, I'd be pretty happy with that. And turn the corner as far as tight ends go. So definitely, I'm not a guy who's going to spend high. I will never probably. Third round is probably the soonest and it's going to hurt me to go in the third for a tight end.
Yeah, I think I'm in agreement. I think quarterback's the one where you need to grab it early, especially in obviously like super flex. But tight end, I don't see a reason why you don't wait. Maybe you grab two of them, like Njoku and Gesicki would be a perfect pairing. Really, any of those two guys. So, new segment, news or noise. We're going to quickly go over a bunch of minicamp and OTA news. Talk about if we think it's news or noise. First one, Michael Thomas doubtful for camp. News or noise?
I'm going to go news. Something about that situation just seems pretty wonky to me. It's an ankle injury, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
He's had this ankle injury for the better part of the last 18 months at this point. Did he miss the whole year last year? I think he did.
Yep.
He missed a good portion of the season before, and now he's not going to be ready for camp. That brings into question for me the entire medical staff of the Saints. But then, you think back on it, Drew Brees always had some fucking weird hand injury that he could never shake. Or I can't remember exactly what it is, but that brings up to me weird culture issues with the Saints, which really doesn't surprise me, but I'm going to go with news on that one.
Yeah, I agree. He's only played in 7 games since 2020. And those ankle things, that ankle, knee, shoulder, shit like that, especially if it's lasting a long time, tends to be pretty easy to re-injure. And he's I think he's 29.8, so almost 30. Not something I like. And they have other receiving talent there. If he doesn't show up, it's not the biggest deal. And I think you're right. There are some questions about culture and team staff. But yeah, definitely news. Next headline. Najee losing work on certain downs. I have this guy as news too. This is a guy who had 300 carries and 78 receptions in his rookie year and he managed running back 6 on the year, but that was the second most carries and first most receptions in the whole league. If you take back 10% of that work, that's 270 carries and 70 receptions. You're looking at RB 11, 12. That O-line's not better. Early reports are Trubisky's the first string quarterback. How long that lasts, I don't know. But if Trubisky's playing, he's not going to get a lot of the check down work he was. I think that's news. I think back end RB1 is what Najee might be if he's not getting that full workload.
I'm kind of on the fence about this one. I'm going to lean more towards noise. I think, Mike Tomlin, he's honestly one of my favorite head coaches. He's the guy, he's a lot like Bill Belichick, plays a fucking mind game, right? I mean, Najee was productive. They didn't do themselves. I mean, between Mitch and, Pickett, I don't think either one of them's much of an upgrade, if anything, over Big Ben. Even Big Ben in his miserable fucking past prime life he lived last year, I don't see a hell of a lot of upgrade. True, the O line isn't better. I'm gonna go more noise on that one. I think it's more of like a media thing, and Mike Tomlin loves to fuck with the media, so that's kind of where I'm leaning on that one. I think Najee Harris, you can lock him in. He's going to be an RB1 next year.
I agree with that. Even if he loses, that certain down work is not going to be much.
Yeah, it's not going to be enough to matter, and they don't have the quarterback to really upgrade them in the passing game, at least at this point. Now, Pickett, he might be a guy down the road that may make me eat my words, but year one, I just don't see him blowing anybody's hat off,
Yeah, no. Will Fuller still being unsigned. News or noise?
I'm going to go with news, and to me, something's not checking out there. I was really certain he was going to Cleveland, right?
Mm-hmm.
I was about locked in that he was going to Cleveland, and you got to think the guy was productive in Houston, right? He was not wide receiver one territory, but he was a solid boomer bust wide receiver two. He goes and signs up 1 year in Miami. We talked about Miami, weird culture issues, a lot of shit going on, head coach on the way out for not tanking games. So we know that Miami was a problem. What is he, probably 27, 28 years old at this point?
27, I think, going into,
I mean, and if nothing else, we all know dude has some wheels. I just can't see how now. My only thought in this situation is he's not getting the money he thinks he deserves. I bet there was contract offers, but I bet he's not. I bet it's a money thing. That's all I think on that. He should be on an NFL roster. Since I have him in Dynasty, I hope it's Green Bay, but
Yeah, I have him being unsigned as news too. It seems weird. Something seems afoot. And those medicals can't be clean at this point. And that's where my question is what's the medical like with him? We've seen guys like Desean Jackson hypothetically play for like fucking 12 years, but they effectively played 4. And then they had like 2 games the other 7 or 8 years. And you wonder if Will Fuller's going to turn into that.
Right.
Next headline, Zach Wilson struggling with accuracy through the start of camp. News or noise?
News, but I'm all right. So Zach Wilson, I really liked him for a lot of the pre-draft process, right? Like I liked what I saw, I liked the swagger, but then the more I read into it, the more I just saw another Baker Mayfield, a guy that's more bark than bite. I know there's a lot of Zach Wilson fanboys out there, and it doesn't really make sense to me, but in reality, I'm like, it's still the Jets, right? How long has the Jets just been a mediocre franchise? And I'm one to know. I mean, I'm a Texans fan. I know a mediocre franchise when I fucking see one, right? It just doesn't surprise me. I think it has to do with the pressure of being in New York and all of that bottling into one. Everybody expects him to take a huge leap next year. I think he'll improve, but not to the level everyone else does. He's got new weapons. And wholeheartedly, the Jets had a good draft, but having a good draft in May is not relative to NFL success. You
Yeah.
might pick the best prospects you can, but you never know how it's going to pan out.
Yeah. I agree completely. It's news, but I wasn't surprised. I think he's getting way overrated. Last one, Marquez Valdez-Scantling and Mahomes building flashing strong chemistry through the beginning of camp. I have this as noise. Marquez Valdez-Scantling has never caught. I can't remember now. I've talked about it before. Like never caught over like 60 passes. Never had over like 700 yards. Never caught more than 6 touchdowns. This guy's, I mean, he played with Aaron Rodgers, so it's not like he had a shitty quarterback that wasn't using him. I think he'll have a couple, he'll be like a DFS guy who in like a few games you'll really, really be glad you chose him in your roster or on your lineup. But season long, redraft, dynasty, it's going to be so inconsistent. Just stay away. Especially at the price people are going to make you pay. Just stay away.
So, for all the listeners out there, we are in Chiefs territory out here, right? So it's very hard for me to roster a Chiefs player because of this. I know someone's going to pay a way higher price for somebody just because they're a Chiefs player than I am. I'll tell you right now, if I'm taking any of the Chiefs wide receivers, I'm probably going to err on Juju. And the reason being is just how is the value. Juju had a shitty year last year. Not even much better of a year the year before. So my only thought process on that is I could get him at a value. I don't think holy fuck. Valdez-Scantling will produce near at the level everyone else thinks he does. I think they got him and then got Sky Moore, who's another fairly similar type of player. And I think Sky Moore is going to be a better asset probably halfway through the season than Scantling is.
Yeah, I think that Juju's the one to have too. He's like my wide receiver 34, 35 in my rankings, and I really do think he's in line for a pretty big season. MVS, though, I think that outside of Juju, sounds a little crazy, but McCole Hardman will probably be my second highest guy I'd want to roster just because he's cheap too. And he's not great, but he had better seasons than you thought if you go look. But yeah, out on MVS, especially at the price.
The thing is, if you go to fantasy Twitter, one of the things they talk about a lot is vacated targets, right? So essentially, vacated targets are how many available targets due to people leaving, right? I think the Chiefs are number 1 or like top 2. So everybody in the fantasy content world is trying to circle their fucking heads around who's going to get Tyreek Hill's targets, right? In reality, it's going to be a lot of Kelsey, I think Juju, and maybe a little bit of Valdez-Scantling. And that's the way I see it happening. But everybody else thinks they got a different algorithm. Here's the deal. Valdez-Scantling played with the best quarterback in the league, right? Unquestioned. I don't think there's any conversation about it. Aaron Rodgers is one of the most accurate quarterbacks of all time. So it's hard to say it out loud, but he downgraded going to Patrick, right? It is what it is. Chemistry or not, I don't see him having a Cooper Kupp type of season. I just don't.
Yeah, the vacated targets thing is a good thing to bring up because a lot of times people really latch onto that and it's not what they think it is. Because usually, yeah, like you'll see Tyreek Hill had 160 targets. Kelsey gets 40 of them. Maybe that's unrealistic. 30 or 40. Clyde Edwards-Helaire gets 20. Juju gets 60, 50. Well, now we're already at like 100. That's 50 targets for Marquez Valdez-Scantling. Not very many. So, yeah, I'm in agreement. No bueno. Moving on real quick, every episode, we're just going to talk about a love and a hate at different positions just to keep the draft stuff going. We are in redraft season all the way until August. So, one love, one hate at running back. I'll let you start, Travis Etienne. Why are you loving Etienne in 2022?
Man, I can't talk enough about the guy. I love Travis Etienne. Here's my key points. James Robinson fucked his shit up real late in the season. He's probably not going to play for a while. I doubt he goes through camp. He's probably a guy that we're looking at early to mid-season. And I think once the Ettiene train gets rolling, it's not going to stop. Pass catching upside's another thing for me. And this is all relative to value. Ettiene isn't the guy that I want more than anybody on my roster, but it's a value thing. I think I saw him going in the 6th round, give or take. That is an immense value for a guy who's more than likely going to end up being an RB2. If you get your second running back in the fucking 6th round, you're winning the draft. I mean, winning at the draft, not winning the league. I think it's college connection between Lawrence and Ettiene is going to pay dividends just because it's something that happens so rarely, but you see the benefits when it happens. I mean, look at Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. They just picked up right where they left off, right? I think there's a lot of value in Ettiene, and I think he's going way too late in drafts. So if he's on the board for you in the 5th or 6th round, I think you pull that fucking trigger and you don't look back.
Yeah, Etienne's one of my favorite. Well, not from a talent standpoint, but he's in one of my favorite situations in 2022. Robinson tore his Achilles. That's worse than fucking your shit up. That's like, for a running back, that's a death sentence. So he's not going to come back and be meaningful. Fucking, I don't care. Tell me all you want in the comments. I don't care. Not coming back. Etienne's going to get that work, and Peterson's already. I saw a stat again. I should have wrote it down. Peterson gave Miles Sanders a stupid amount of usage when he was healthy, and I didn't even realize it because everyone makes jokes about Miles Sanders. So yeah, I'm all in on Ettiene. 3-down workhorse running backs in the NFL are hard to find right now. So anytime there is one, no matter where he is, like that's a good pick. Dameon Pierce is going to be a fucking league winner for people this year. And he's in Houston, probably the worst team overall in the NFL. So,
Whoa. Easy with that.
My love. I might be wrong. You're right. I might be wrong. My love at the running back position in 2022, and this one's kind of weird because he's really highly ranked, but I have Dalvin Cook. I've seen a lot of Dalvin Cook hate. A lot of Dalvin Cook hate. This is a guy who going into like 2019, 2020, you just knew he was a high-end, top 5 running back, and he had one not-so-great year in the touchdown department, and now everyone thinks he's aged out and done. He is 27. He's surprisingly healthy at 27, though. He's played in more than 10 games every season of his career, but his rookie year. Kevin O'Connell's already talked about getting him involved in the pass game. I saw he was lining him up at receiver. I don't know if that's quite going to do much, but I bet he will catch more passes. Really, really friendly outside zone scheme is what they're going to be running. Yeah, he's a little old. He'll probably miss 2 or 3 games, sure. What running back doesn't? When he plays, this is a guy who scored fucking just a ridiculous amount of touchdowns, gets all the work. Sign me up for Dalvin Cook. If you can get him outside of RB5 or 6, it's a steal.
Absolutely. I mean, Dalvin Cook is one of the elite athletic people. And, we talk about athleticism in some of these positions, and that trumps a lot of things for a little bit at least, like age, situation. Yeah, I do like Dalvin Cook. I mean, he's one of those type of running backs I like. Dynasty wise, you want to buy low and then sell high after the season. I think he's probably in line for his best season, but then you got to factor in age and all that stuff. And
usually guys have that like really, really high peak season and they're just done. So you're
running
exactly
back,
right. Yeah, that's pretty normal.
yeah, they peak for a season, maybe two. You get your unicorns like Derrick Henry who just have no off switch, but yeah, it running back in dynasty especially. I mean, you gotta realize your window, and that's the only way you're going to be successful is to say, okay, this guy, he had his best season. He still might have a good season next year, but he's probably on the decline after that, and that's when you need to make your. Dalvin Cook, though, I always see Dalvin Cook and Nick Chubb as very similar running backs, right? Very similar outside of the fact that Nick Chubb has a better receiving core around him, so he doesn't catch passes as much. But now, O'Connell's trying to do some weird shit. Maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. I still have him as a mid first round pick, and I would love to have him. I mean,
I've seen people just full on fading him, which is why I wanted to talk about him. I've just seen people full on fading Dalvin Cook. Don't get it. Dynasty maybe I wouldn't this year. Next year I would. But yeah, would you rather have McCaffrey or Cook in redraft?
McCaffrey.
Crazy. We'll talk about
Yeah.
that later. Hey, Breece Hall.
Oh, motherfucker. Here we go. So I saw some rankings, and I can't quote the source because I look at so many of them just to get a rough idea of what everyone else thinks. I legitimately saw in a redraft ranking someone ranked Breece Hall as RB6. Please fucking explain this to me because I'm having a hard time understanding it. Here's what we know. Zach Wilson, he ain't shit. He ain't gonna do shit. He ain't shit. Receivers, sure they're good, but I don't think Zach Wilson can handle the pressure. I don't think he's accurate enough to get it to him. Their offensive line, meh. I mean, they've added pieces, but it's still the Jets. Passing down work, I think Michael Carter-Williams is going to get more. Is Breece Hall talented? Sure. Of course he is. But he could not have landed in a worse situation. He was one pick away from being on the Texans, and I think that would have skyrocketed his value just due to lack of competition. Hard to say it, but a better offensive line. And I just don't love Breece Hall. I don't love where people are taking him. 101 would have been hard for me to take Breece Hall in Dynasty draft. I'm glad I did not have the 101, so I did not have to make that decision.
Yeah, I'm glad I traded that for Russell Wilson and CeeDee Lamb. That was pretty cool.
I would be happy. At the moment, I was like, I don't know if I like that. But after the draft concluded, I was like, oh yeah, that's a great trade.
Yeah, Breece is a guy, obviously, we were just talking about it. I traded out of the 101 pre-draft. I kind of had read some things about the Bills liking other running backs, and I only wanted him if he was on the Bills, honestly. I think that due to Michael Carter being there, it really fucks up his value. Breece was really good in the pass game. He's a good runner of the football, but he had issues breaking runs to the 10-yard line or like 10 yards away from the line of scrimmage in the Big 12 in college. So I kind of struggle with the fact that he's going to be like this uber successful NFL running back in terms of just running the ball. But if you put in all the pieces of his game, he still has like this really high-end fantasy ceiling. Michael Carter takes that away. Zach Wilson, the fact that the offense is bad offensive line. I really think a lot of people are going to overdraft him thinking it's going to be like Jonathan Taylor, and it just couldn't be further. At like RB20 or past that, I get it because maybe Michael Carter gets injured, maybe they surprise us. Anything over that like RB20 spot, there's no way in a redraft league I'm grabbing Breece Hall. Just can't.
He's one of those guys that you draft in Dynasty and you stash until. I mean, the talent's there. We know that, but some questions have to get answered in the situation.
Yep. Yeah. My hate, Austin Ekeler. I'm gonna start off with it. I'm gonna start off with this. He had 63 red zone touches in 2021. In 2020, he had 26 red zone touches, 27 in 19, and I don't have it in front of me, but 25 in the 25 to 30 range in 2018 as well. So he literally tripled his red zone touches in 1 year. Scored 20 touchdowns in 2021 after scoring less than 11 every other season of his career. Saw 100 more carries than every other season of his career. He's going into his age 27 season, and they just drafted Isaiah Spiller to play in the Melvin Gordon role. I love Austin Ekeler. Austin Ekeler's not the RB3 this year. Probably not the RB5 this year. RB8 to 10 is, low-end RB1, all about it. He's a super good player. But, like, that red zone touchdown volume's coming down. It just is. Maybe he outpaces himself yardage-wise. Even if he does that, though, like, touchdowns are what really score you a lot of fantasy points. If he has a really great season this year, 12 or 15 is probably what he's looking at. I highly doubt he gets 20 again. So I don't hate Ekeler, but I hate him at the price because I've seen him up at like RB3, 4, 5, and that's too much for him.
No, I love Ekeler. I agree with you though. He is not going to be the RB3. Here is the way that it goes with running back. Talked about it. They have that peak season, and then they still may have a good season next year, but it's always like a steady decline afterwards. Austin Ekeler's 27. He looks like he's about 42. But here's my thing is I'll tell you right now, clip this tweet, clip it, tweet it, blast me in the comments, whatever. Jonathan Taylor is probably not going to be the RB1 this year. It is very seldom that somebody repeats. I'm not saying he's not talented enough to be the RB1. But there's always someone in a better situation, better injuries situation. I've kind of got, in my mind, some people that I think could take the RB1 crown this year, but, that's to be determined. But it very seldomly ever repeats. So,
time out. Who are they?
For me, I think Henry's a potential if he stays healthy.
Mm-hmm.
I think DeAndre Swift is a dark horse.
Mm-hmm.
And then, there's a couple guys. It could be Javonte Williams if Melvin Gordon breaks his ankle in training camp. Let me think of some more. I mean, there's a lot of potential for other guys to get in that spot.
Yeah, Henry, Cook, Swift, yeah, Kamara. If Kamara doesn't get suspended.
Which is weird. We haven't heard anything about this. Mm-hmm. I don't know if he's even gonna. That dude probably deserved that ass beating he got. I don't know.
Yeah, that's what it seems like at this point.
To me, Aaron Jones is probably another guy that might be a deep, could have.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's just my thing with running backs is I'm so positive that JT probably won't. He could be the RB2.
Mm-hmm. He just probably won't repeat. Yeah.
Yeah, he probably won't repeat though. And
And I don't think that doesn't mean you don't take him as like your 101. But yeah, like realistically, he's probably not going to be the RB1 again this year. Maybe he will, but
they've got 17 games of film on this dude just fucking raping everybody. They know. I mean, That's the thing is it's going to be a surprise type of deal, like a DeAndre Swift or something like that, but they don't have all that fucking film on to watch because he made a huge leap between 2 years ago and last year, right? He made a huge leap. He put some new moves on people. He changed his instincts. He started going left instead of right or what the fuck ever it was. And they got all this shit on film. They're going to figure out Jonathan Taylor sooner or later. The difference JT and Henry is you just can't stop Henry because he's so goddamn big. It's not finesse. It's not, footwork. He will just mow your sorry ass down, and everybody knows it's going to happen, and no one can do anything about it.
Yeah, Derrick Henry's fun to watch. There's no one else that can just make a grown man fucking, yeah.
Have you watched his workouts? There's a reason he does that shit. It is stupid. Like, I watch his workout, and that's the thing I love to do in the off season is watch people's workouts. Derrick Henry is a man among boys, right? And you just watch him work out, and you're like, oh, that's how he does that.
All right. Well, I don't know how far we're getting on this. This would be like a continuous deal. We'll pick up on it later on where we leave off. We're going to keep, the mock drafting was cool. We're going to keep on that. I don't know how far we're going to get, but maybe a round and a half, maybe two, into just a half-point PPR mock draft. I think I'm going to try to keep track of it and then list the teams online if we get all the way through like 10 or 12 rounds. I don't know how far we'll get, though. I'll let you have the 101 snake draft order, so then 2, 3, 4, 5, so on and so forth. 101, 12. We'll do 12 teams, I guess. That really doesn't matter as much in this, but yeah. 101. Who's your first pick?
I mean, I think the 101 for me has to be JT. As far as a running back goes, it's the safest pick you can make. We talked a lot about JT earlier. We'll keep it simple there with that. I don't think you can make a safer pick at running back is my point. 101, there's a lot of pressure on it. I generally try not to have it if I can avoid it. So Jonathan Taylor, I'd book that. Call it done.
Yeah, if he plays 17 games, he'll be a top 5 running back. Even if he's not the one. And that's what you want out of the 101. All right, my next two. Give me Derrick Henry and Dalvin Cook. So, Henry, both of these guys are aging backs. I actually more roster than both. The deal with me, I know, Caden, you probably think, oh, this fucking kid, you just always rank your players high. I believe in what I'm saying, so I go get the guys who I believe in beforehand, and then I start spewing propaganda. Derrick Henry is like 28 years old, so he's old for a running back. He had a weird career, though, where he wasn't a workhorse until like the 3rd, 4th year. There's not – the thing with the running backs only lasting 5 years is you don't know if it's because they're just not very talented, and then when they lose a little athleticism, it's done, or if it's really because running backs can't last that long. Because historically, we've had guys play 12, 15 – 16 seasons on the high end and produce in most of them. I think Henry kind of leans more towards those guys, where we might be talking about him for the next 5 years as an RB1. And it wouldn't surprise me. I mean, think about, even if he declines a little bit, going to a success, think about him on the Buccaneers. How stupid that would be. Or like the Chiefs, or, a team that can use him as just a goal line back that's going to get to the goal line a fuck ton. So I like Henry, dynasty, and redraft. At that 3rd pick, Cook. This isn't a dynasty. I wouldn't pick him at a high-end dynasty. But like a redraft league, like Dalvin Cook could be the RB1 overall. He was close. He's been close. I don't think he's going to have another great year after this year, but this might be the year that Dalvin really shows up. So keeping it with running back, Henry, Cook, you're up. I mean, unless you want to comment on those. That might have been a little hot takey, but
I definitely agree with Henry too. Cook, I agree with as well. I could see the upside there. Kind of hard to pass on the upside for Cook. For me, I'm going to go Cooper Kupp 4. Here's what I see is I watched a lot of Cooper Kupp last year, right? So let me tell you my history with Cooper Kupp. About 2 years ago, I took him as my third wide receiver and just really thought I got one over on him. And it didn't work out as well as I thought. I mean, he was rosterable, definitely. He had his ups and downs. And then the next year, he kind of slipped my mind. Well, the next year was last year, and we all know what happened. He slipped my mind in the draft, and then I paid for it later. So, especially in our little mock draft, I'm definitely not going to pass that one up. Him and Matt Stafford have an elite connection. I don't think he's again, I don't think he's going to be the wide receiver 1 on the year, but I think wide receiver 3 is probably.
I've got the hottest of hot takes on my wide receiver 1. Well, it's not that hot of a take, but you'll think it's hot. So we'll talk about that here in a second.
But after Kupp, I'm going to go at 5. I'm going to go Christian McCaffrey. I know his health is an issue. I know the situation is an issue. But here's what they did. They went out, they beefed up the offensive line. They did absolutely nothing for the guy quarterback. But here's the deal. We know Sam Darnold can throw it 5 yards. That's all Daddy McCaffrey needs. If McCaffrey stays healthy, he is easily a top 3 fantasy running back, right? If he stays healthy. I know we've had a couple years now of him not being healthy, but I'm just saying, metaphorically speaking, he doesn't get injured. He's a top 3 running back.
Yeah, I agree. It's hard with CMC. The Kupp deal, we'll talk about that. Yeah, you're exactly right. He's at least going to be a top 5 wide receiver regardless. McCaffrey is hard for me because it's hard to waste a first-round pick.
It is.
But if he plays 16 games, if he plays 12 games, you're really happy, honestly. So, yeah, I agree. It's hard to pass up the talent there. At the 106, I will go ahead and grab running backs get hard in this range because you see a little tiny issue with all of them. For our little exercise, give me Najee. I'm okay with Najee here. Even if he loses certain down work, Najee's a fucking workhorse, and Tomlin's going to use him regardless. 107, my wide receiver 1 on the year, Justin Jefferson. I think that. Do what?
I don't disagree with that at all.
With Kevin O'Connell there, I didn't realize he had 1,600 yards last year on like 160 targets. I think O'Connell's going to use the shit out of him. I think that in certain home leagues, you can probably grab him in the second round. And, yeah, he's my wide receiver 1. I was kind of low on him last year. I'm not making that mistake again. That boy is nice. So, yeah, I have Jefferson at 107. Really like that.
I don't disagree at all with you. Jefferson just keeps getting better every year. And that's just the facts of it. If he was the wide receiver 1 on the year, I would not be at all surprised. So
checks all the boxes. Kirk Cousins is a good fantasy quarterback for him. And I assume they're going to use him on more play action shots, which, yeah.
The difference between Kirk Cousins and Tom Brady is Tom Brady will find the open man, and Kirk Cousins will find which one of his boys are open. Good for Justin Jefferson, right? Tom Brady will throw it to the fucking water boy if he lines up and gets open. That's the difference. I don't know, but yeah, I've been a Justin Jefferson fan. Going to our home league dynasty startup draft, I wanted some Jefferson, right? But somebody took him in the first round that year, and that was a hell of a reach at that point, especially in a super flex. So that was cried my beer about later. But so at the 108, I'm gonna have to go, and I'm not drafting a real team. I'm just picking positional, like at that point, who's the right person to take. At the 108, I can't pass up Ekeler. You know, at the 108, if you get a guy that finishes top 5 in running back carries, high end receiving upside, you know, been in that system, been with that guy. Good offensive line. That's all the tools you want. He showed last year he can, I guess, somewhat stay healthy. That was a question going into the year. Is he the long-term answer? Clearly not, because they took Spiller. I think Spiller will succeed him in either a year or two as that guy. But for redraft purposes, I'm absolutely going to take him at 108. After that, 109, I'm going to go Jamar Chase. Just because he's that dude, man. We've talked a lot about Jamar Chase on this pod. Just, I don't know what it is about him, but he came in year one, showed he can be an elite receiver, and I don't see any signs of him slowing down. Will he have the year he had last year? No, probably not. Could he have a better year? Maybe. Who knows? I mean, he's about as him and Justin Jefferson have the highest floor of any wide receivers in the league. So you can't go wrong with either one of those guys.
Yeah, no, I like the Ekeler pick and the Chase pick. I have Chase at like wide receiver 6 because of the T. Higgins phenomenon, but he could very well be the wide receiver 1 this year. I mean, it could break both ways. So I get it. My next two, God. I'm going to go with Aaron Jones because he's going to get just so much work. I mean, he's old, blah, 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 blah. He's old, whatever. Dude's going to see like 100 targets. Yeah.
Aaron Jones, that's a fucking ball.
Yeah, and they're, yes, there's a split, but Aaron Jones gets all of the passing work. All of it. All of it. Yeah. And that's what really matters. So I'm tossing between two wide receivers. Give me CeeDee Lamb. CD is the alpha wide receiver in a Cowboys offense that is ranked 10th, 2nd, and 8th in pass attempts over the last 3 years.
2022 CeeDee Lamb is going to be everything that fantasy Twitter thought 2021 CeeDee Lamb.
Mm-hmm. They're always a year too early. Well, not always. Sometimes they're never right. But a lot of times they're 1 year too early, and I think this is one of those cases.
I do too. And CeeDee Lamb really, in my mind, is in that mix of guys like Chase and Jefferson and Lamb. Any of those guys could be the wide receiver 1 on the year, and I wouldn't at all be surprised.
Nope.
Your targets, you want to talk about that? There's a lot of vacated targets from Amari Cooper going to Cleveland. And that move said a lot, right? They sent fucking Amari Cooper to the Cleveland Browns for a box of Cracker Jacks and a used condom. They really did. I think it was like, what, a 6th round pick?
Yeah, I think 5th or 6th.
And so they are confident enough in CeeDee Lamb and Michael Gallup. Wholeheartedly, that was the right move for the Dallas Cowboys. CeeDee Lamb, he's going to be an alpha wide receiver 1. Love that pick. Love Aaron Jones. We talked about it before. He's kind of one of my sleeper guys. If you get him in the late first, that could potentially turn to be a league winner.
Mm-hmm.
I have no doubts about that at all. Swift with the 112.
Repeat that. You were cut out right there.
DeAndre Swift.
Swift? Okay.
Yeah. Just because he has so much potential. Here's what we know about the Detroit Lions. They fucked around, and they probably have a top 5 offensive line in this league, right? Don't know. Probably didn't get any better in the offseason. I don't know who needs to hear it, but he probably didn't. They passed on Malik Willis 5 times. I mean, they were like, nah, brother, we're not picking you. Jamal Williams, I thought he'd be a bigger threat last year than he really was. He wasn't. This guy's really got all the tools to succeed this year. And, like we said before, he could be the running back 1 on the year. Probably won't be, but that potential is there. So,
no, I think that I traded DeAndre Swift, and it really hurt me because he really could be like really fucking good. That hurt.
He was good.
That hurt. All right, well, I think we'll cut it off at the end of the first round. That took a good amount. We'll pick this back up probably some other time. If you're watching on YouTube, there'll probably be a graphic up right about 15 minutes ago with all this. But yeah, we'll try to keep up. Anything else that we want to go over?
One more thing before we cut it off, just to add to the news or noise segment. I know you're going to love it. Read an article today. Says James Cook is going to be the number 2 running back behind Devin Singeltary. What's your thoughts on that?
For me, it depends. I think it's news, but that's expected for me. James Cook, in all honesty, for me, is a guy who I hope gets like DeAndre Swift work. 5 to 8 targets and 10 carries and no more. And so you can do that in a secondary role. But he's just so explosive. I think that long term, he's going to really carve this role out for himself. I've watched a lot of the Bills. They're in the AFC East. Devin Singetary fucking sucks. He is just a guy. He is just a guy. And that's okay. It's okay to be just a guy because you know what? You're just a guy in the NFL. That's better than me. But in like fantasy football, like dynasty terms, yeah, if you expected him to be the day 1 starter, you were misleading yourself.
I saw that report and I was like, are you fucking kidding me? Devin Singeltary?
That's what they do with their running backs. Like, they did that with Zach Moss and Devin Singeltary. Like, that's just what they fucking do.
I'm going to go noise on that one because Devin Singletary is wildly inefficient. He's probably the only thing that held that team back from competing for a Super Bowl last year.
Yeah, they had no real run game. Josh Allen was out there running like single wing offense, and just because no one was afraid of their run game at all, no one gave a fuck about it.
No, they'd fucking drop 5 deep and not even give a shit. Like, they wouldn't even try to cover it. They just 5 people standing back 20 yards, and they're like, cool. Try me.
Yeah, it's amazing that Josh Allen was as good as he was last year with the defenses they were seeing because of that. So, yeah, I think it's expected. I think eventually he takes it over, though. I think by the end of the year, it's a whole different conversation.
I do, too. Yeah,
I think
no question James Cook is going to be the rookie RB1 on the year points wise. And honestly, I think the only person who could stop him is maybe Dameon Pierce. And that's what I say about it.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, that's pretty spot on. Anything else? Cool. We're all set, guys. We'll be back in a couple of weeks. Thank you for listening. Be sure to check out the new website, rotojoes.com.